celebrating 25 years being on the show. Please welcome our son, Michael Consuelos.
Kelly Ripa's son was born into a family built for television. Michael Consuelos grew up around cameras and had a famous last name that could have opened doors in Hollywood. As a child, he sat backstage while his mother prepared to go live. Years later, he was working behind the scenes of major television productions. While millions knew Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos, Michael was quietly building a career of his own. Everyone assumed Michael Consuelos would simply follow his famous parents into the spotlight. But he had other plans. And just when his life seemed to be heading in a clear direction, the pandemic threw those plans into chaos. The family saw a different side of Michael. Long before stepping behind a camera, Michael Consuelos earned a reputation inside the family for being the loudest supporter in the room. As the eldest of Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos' 3 children, Michael grew up with 2 younger siblings, Lola and Joaquin Consuelos, and he took that role seriously. He became the brother who showed up, paid attention, and celebrated their wins as if they were his own. When Lola started chasing a music career, that pride never stayed quiet. Michael Consuelos openly praised her singing in interviews, even admitting that supporting her had not always been so easy during their childhood. Like most siblings, he could find her musical ambitions annoying at times when they were younger. But as they grew older, that annoyance turned into genuine admiration and respect for what she could do. That shift says a lot about their relationship. Michael was not simply praising his sister because she was family. He had watched her develop her talent, understood how seriously she took music, and eventually became one of the people willing to acknowledge it publicly. The teasing that might have existed between siblings during childhood gave way to real pride as Lola began finding her own voice and identity. Joaquin received that same energy from his older brother. In March of 2026, Joaquin Consuelos made his Broadway debut in Death of a Salesman, stepping onto one of the most respected stages in American theater. For a family already familiar with the entertainment industry, the moment was still significant. Michael showed up to support his younger brother from the audience, once again taking his place as the sibling cheering from the sidelines. From the outside, the eldest Consuelos sibling looked like a textbook example of a grounded celebrity kid. He had grown up surrounded by fame, but his public image never became defined by unnecessary drama or attention-seeking. That reputation for good character turned out to run much deeper than good manners on camera. Graduating college, moving into an apartment, and building an actual career sounds simple, but for a celebrity kid, doing it without a scandal is rare. Michael Consuelos managed all 3 while growing up under the attention that naturally followed his parents. Instead of constantly trying to prove himself publicly, he appeared comfortable building his own life at his own pace. That personality became the real headline. Kelly Ripa has said publicly that her eldest son carries the strongest moral compass out of anyone she knows, describing the personality behind it as thoroughly kind and genuinely decent. Coming from a mother who has watched all 3 of her children grow up, that description carries particular weight. It also lines up with the way the Consuelos family consistently talks about their firstborn. Staying out of controversy became a pattern. Even during public appearances beside 2 extremely famous parents, Michael's energy remained mature, grounded, and quietly grateful for a life most people only dream about. He never seemed desperate to turn the family name into a personal spotlight, and that restraint became part of what made him stand out. Grateful is one word for it, but 2020 tested that gratitude in ways nobody could have predicted. The career that never happened. In 2020, Michael Consuelos graduated from New York University Tisch School of the Arts, becoming the first sibling in the family to earn a college degree. The achievement marked an important step in his life, especially because he had chosen a field that connected naturally to the entertainment world he had grown up around. But the timing could not have been worse. Commencement landed in the middle of a global pandemic, stripping away nearly every normal graduation tradition. Instead of the usual ceremony filled with classmates, families, celebrations, and the excitement of moving into the next chapter, Michael's graduation unfolded during a period when almost everything had been disrupted. Kelly Ripa spoke publicly about the moment, admitting that the milestone did not look anything like what the family had expected. For a young graduate who had spent years preparing for a career in film and television, the uncertainty did not stop there. The bigger blow came right after the ceremony. A writing job that was already lined up evaporated almost overnight once productions shut down across the entertainment industry. The opportunity that was supposed to give Michael a clear starting point after college suddenly disappeared, leaving the fresh graduate without the career beginning everyone had been planning for months. It was an especially frustrating position to be in. Michael had completed his degree, prepared to enter the industry, and already had work waiting. Then, an international crisis brought productions to a standstill and erased the opportunity before he could even get started. Rather than panic, the family adjusted. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos gave their son an extra year of breathing room to find new opportunities, allowing him time to figure out his next move without immediately feeling pressured to force a career path that no longer existed. It was a quiet family decision, and one that most fans never even heard about. The family eventually found a way to celebrate the achievement properly. In the summer of 2021, they took a trip to Europe, giving Michael the kind of graduation celebration that the pandemic had taken away from him the year before. But there was something else working in Michael's favor. Job searching during a total shutdown builds a certain kind of grit. And it turns out that grit had already been trained for years, just on a completely different track. Long before Hollywood cameras, Michael Consuelos was already competing, just on a cross-country course instead of a movie set. At Ethical Culture Fieldston School, he spent 4 straight years running distance events for both the cross-country and track and field teams. The commitment was not simply something he did casually alongside school. Distance running demanded consistency, endurance, and the ability to keep pushing when the finish line was still far away. Those years of competition eventually produced a major achievement. Senior year ended with a first-team All-Ivy selection, a serious athletic honor that most casual fans of the Consuelos family have never once heard mentioned. While his parents were already established television figures, Michael was quietly building a record of his own through competition. That discipline followed the future producer straight into college. Freshman year at New York University included a spot on the men's cross-country roster while he studied film at the Tisch School of the Arts. He was balancing early morning training with a demanding college course load, continuing to compete while preparing for the entertainment career he had chosen for himself. Michael had already spent years learning how to keep going when things became difficult. And discipline like that does not simply disappear when the race ends. It followed him from the cross-country course into college, from college into an industry thrown into chaos, and eventually toward the career he had been preparing to build. Michael's Hollywood journey begins. Acting interest showed up early for Michael Consuelos. In 2018, the young actor landed a small role on Riverdale, giving him an early opportunity to step onto a professional set and experience the industry from the other side of the camera. He returned to the series in 2021, but this time the role carried a much more personal connection. Michael played a younger version of Hiram Lodge. The character originated by his father, Mark Consuelos. It was more than simply sharing a television series with his dad. Michael was stepping into a role that audiences already associated with Mark, giving the two a connection on screen that went beyond the usual father and son relationship. The casting also highlighted just how naturally Michael fit into the entertainment world he had grown up around. Working on the set reportedly felt refreshing for him, with the cast and crew described as genuinely enjoyable to be around. Rather than making the experience about his family name, Michael was able to build relationships and gain experience as a young actor, finding his own place within a professional production. By 2026, his acting resume included about 7 credits, with projects such as the television movie Let's Get Physical in 2022 and a role in Dissociate in 2023, adding to his growing experience. Sharing a character with a father is one kind of connection, but the resemblance between the two of them goes a lot further than any script could ever plan. Every family has an origin story, and the Consuelos family origin story starts with a teenager who left Mexico with almost nothing. Saul Consuelos, father of Mark Consuelos, immigrated to the United States in his early teens and went on to serve his country for 30 years. His journey became an important part of the family's history, particularly because of how much he accomplished after arriving in America so young. That service eventually led all the way to Special Operations Command in Tampa. Along the way, Saul Consuelos earned an education through the Navy and later completed a master's degree, an achievement Mark Consuelos has described as nothing short of brilliant. His story represented a generation of sacrifice, discipline, and determination that shaped the family that came after him. The achievements did not simply remain part of Mark's personal history, they became part of the story his children grew up knowing. Then, in March of 2026, the family faced a loss that changed that story forever. Saul Consuelos passed away after a long health battle, and the loss hit the entire family hard. Mark Consuelos shared on live television that his father had passed away peacefully, surrounded by family and love. For Michael, Lola, and Joaquin Consuelos, the loss marked the first time they had faced death in their own lives at such a close level. Losing a grandparent is difficult at any age, but it carried a particular weight for the 3 siblings because Saul had been part of their lives and memories for years. Kelly Ripa spoke about how different that experience was compared to her own childhood. She had lost every grandparent by the age of 8, meaning she never had the opportunity her own children had to grow up with a grandparent, ask questions, hear family stories, and build real memories together. 2 actors who became family. Growing up with famous parents came with an unexpected bonus for Michael Consuelos. A chosen family built through the entertainment industry itself. Michael has 2 godparents, actress Ava LaRue and actor and director Chris Bruno, both close friends of Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. Their relationships with the family go back years, long before Michael was old enough to understand just how unusual his childhood would be. The connection with Ava LaRue traces back to the soap opera All My Children, where Kelly Ripa and LaRue developed a close friendship while working in the same television world. Their relationship continued beyond the set and eventually became part of the Consuelos family itself. That bond turned into something permanent when Ava LaRue became godmother to the oldest Consuelos child. What started as a friendship between 2 actresses became a relationship that connected another important figure in the entertainment industry to Michael's life from the very beginning. Chris Bruno became another part of that circle, giving Michael 2 godparents who were already familiar faces within his parents' professional and personal lives. For a child growing up around television, that meant the people surrounding him were not simply co-workers or celebrity acquaintances. Some of those relationships became genuine family connections. And that sense of family loyalty clearly runs through other parts of Michael's story too, including something much more ordinary: a closet full of clothes. Fashion sense in the Consuelos household apparently gets passed down whether it is offered or not. Michael Consuelos has admitted to raiding the closet belonging to Mark Consuelos, joking that the missing items never go unnoticed for long. It is the kind of habit that says plenty without needing a dramatic explanation. Michael may have developed his own identity, career, and interests, but he was still growing up as Mark Consuelos' son, sharing the same home, the same family routines, and apparently the same taste in clothes. And borrowing Dad's clothes makes even more sense when the resemblance between them is considered. The similarities between Michael and Mark go far beyond fashion. Photos of the two together are often mistaken for twins, with their facial features and overall appearance making the family connection almost impossible to miss. Even Kelly Ripa has pointed out their resemblance publicly on more than one occasion. For Michael, that similarity is particularly noticeable because his father is already such a recognizable figure. Mark Consuelos has spent decades appearing on television, so seeing his son standing beside him can make the resemblance even more striking. Looking like family is one thing, but growing up surrounded by people who work in entertainment creates another layer to Michael's story. His godparents came from the same industry as his parents. His father became one of his earliest examples of a professional actor, and his mother built a career in front of millions of viewers. Yet Michael's relationship with that world has never been limited to being someone's son or godson. He eventually stepped into the industry himself, exploring acting before moving further behind the scenes. That distinction matters. The entertainment industry was already part of Michael's family before he ever chose it as a career. He did not have to search for an introduction to Hollywood. He was born into a network of people who had spent years working in it. But having access to that world and finding a place within it are two very different things. The clothes may have come from his father's closet, and the industry may have come through his family. But Michael still had to figure out what he wanted to do with both. The career move that changed his path. In 2023, Michael Consuelos landed a job at Bravo, working behind the scenes on major reality shows, including the Real Housewives franchise and Summer House. A guest hosting appearance on Live with Kelly and Mark followed that July. Andy Cohen has called this career move a full circle moment, having known Michael Consuelos since childhood through a long friendship with Kelly Ripa. Despite the connection, cast members from Summer House have said there is not much overlap or socializing with the production side of the show. Working hard behind the camera clearly comes with a reward, and that reward usually involves sand between the toes. Social media does not get used often, but when it does, beach photos show up constantly. Out of just 10 posts shared publicly, 3 feature sun-soaked vacation shots, including a January 2023 photo taken on the sand and a June 2025 picture beside an infinity pool overlooking the ocean. That love for the beach clearly runs in the family. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos have shared plenty of their own vacation photos over the years, and the whole family regularly travels together to soak up the sun. The details that changed how fans see Michael. Kelly Ripa has hosted Live since February of 2001, meaning Michael Consuelos essentially grew up on the set of a live national television show. One favorite memory involves a swamp tour in Louisiana that ended with a snake being tossed directly at Kelly Ripa on camera. Cooking segments and holiday specials with the whole family also made the list of favorite moments. Fans loved watching the Consuelos children grow up on screen, especially during a memorable 2018 appearance where Kelly Ripa introduced her firstborn to a standing ovation and endless praise. Viewers flooded the comment section with reactions afterward, many pointing out just how much Michael Consuelos looked and even sounded like Mark Consuelos, right down to identical mannerisms. Being compared to a father on screen is one kind of legacy, but building an entirely separate creative world is a different story altogether. Acting, producing, and reading all led somewhere unexpected, straight into writing. Michael Consuelos has described a genuine passion for horror as a genre and has spent real time working on novels, though nothing has been published yet. Reading fuels that passion constantly, with audiobooks filling the gaps whenever a physical book is not available. Kelly Ripa released her own book, Livewire, and Michael Consuelos read the entire thing shortly after release, calling the experience proud-making while watching years of hard work finally come together. Professional collaboration with the family happened directly too. A role in the Lifetime movie Let's Get Physical came from a project executive produced by both parents, and an early internship at their production company, Mojo, offered a first real glimpse into how the entertainment business actually works behind the scenes. Home life rounds out the picture nicely. A 3-year-old Shih Tzu named Rosie joined the family after the move to a Brooklyn apartment, officially making Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos proud grandparents of a dog the entire family adores. Michael Consuelos built a life that goes far beyond famous parents. From record-breaking running seasons to a grandfather whose journey shaped an entire family. Quiet discipline, real loss, and genuine talent turned out to be the real story all along. Which details surprised the most? The running career or the family legacy? Drop an answer in the comments, hit like, and subscribe for more untold celebrity family stories every single week.